Live streaming is on.
Cool. So I feel like most of these pre-topics should go.
Yeah, I put it there because
continue with our planning and coordination.
Yeah, I wanted to go one minute into the pre-topics, topic 0.
Well, do you have a proposed topic that we could talk about, or I don't know?
I mean, topic 0. I thought we included it so that maybe we have some quick updates that we want to talk about before going into the professional focus.
I mean, I think the topic 0, the basically will be policy tracking, that we're not following policy, and we say things and we at least have a place to put the notes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly, and it's great. So that if we have some just quick things that we discuss before the real topics and the focus of the session.
The whole point is to try to avoid that and stay focused on our topics and work.
Yeah, I know, but I have just a question that I wanted to clarify with you quickly. Can we do that? It's gonna take 5 minutes.
Well, I know, but why don't we just make a topic? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Yeah, it's about the schedule. Okay.
For me, the idea of topic 0 being done on purpose doesn't make any sense. Like, if we have to do topic 0, we can, but the idea is that we would try to avoid it. But if you want to make your first topic scheduling, going over the schedule, it's fine.
Yeah, thank you. Just 2 minutes, very, very quick. Yeah.
And then should we jump in the planning and coordination after that?
Yes. Then I would do a view up based on the planning coordination, and I would like to get some work started. Mainly the brainstorm of the website, if we make it a top priority.
And that's where I was saying that, if we wanted to, we could do a double team, and some of the stuff might be better to be done as a group.
Yeah, I mean, Joyce is with fever, so I don't know if she said she probably is gonna make it. Not gonna make
They're
it.
working in the other group, in the other room. Joyce and Moth are on the call together right now.
Yeah, they're setting up their MBT.
Yeah.
But they started before.
Yeah, but if she's not feeling well, then she should be sleeping. And if with a fever, I mean, it doesn't sound right at all.
Yeah, well, but it's not such a fever that she cannot work. She said that.
Anyway, you can work it out. Anyways, let's go into topic 1, and then we can go to topic 2 from there.
All right, thank you. So this schedule, right? Let me just copy and paste it. All right, this is the schedule we passed. Just gonna copy and paste it quickly. All right, there we go. So we say that Hydra, okay, Alberto, Mamoon, Moss, Joyce, maybe you when you're available, but you already said that it's difficult for you. But then we have Andromeda, right? Andromeda, everybody is expected to show up, all hands on deck, as we said, right? Mm-hmm. And then Cobalt is just you and I.
Well, I mean, there's a big difference of like all hands on deck and expecting everyone to show up. Everyone needs to schedule. So there's never an expectation that anyone's showing up. The expectation is everyone schedules professionally.
Yeah, I mean, the new schedule is this. So everybody is expected to check in before the already scheduled sessions. Because
at the time that they schedule, yeah, but they schedule their check-in.
Yeah, exactly. So we agreed yesterday that for Hydra, Alberto, Mamoon, Moss, and Joyce are scheduled for these 2 sessions per week. And then for Andromeda is everybody. So the whole core team: Jay, Joyce, Ate, Mamoon, Moth, Alberto.
But that's because each individual person's scheduled, right?
Yeah, everybody agreed that they're scheduled for these 4 sessions, and since now it's the new model, we say we know what the focus is, right? It's
But
either
what
prime
about,
projector, but we need to check in before
but what about
to
Stacy, for example? Is Stacy scheduled?
I mean, Stacy is still a temporary worker, right? She's not really still.
All right, but anyways, the point is that the scheduling should be specific per day so that it's clear what the schedule is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but we changed that now with this trajectory. The trajectory is more flexible, right? We said we know that.
Absolutely not. We did not say that. We never suddenly said that, oh yeah, no one has to schedule anymore. That's the completely opposite of what the trajectory model is. Okay,
No,
so what we agreed on is that Friday Saturday would be for Andromeda hour 2 would be the focus on the prime trajectory buddy teamwork, and then from there it obviously will get into more
and
detail.
and everybody's scheduled for that. Everybody
No,
is
but
supposed
everybody scheduled is no one scheduled, right? If Jay, Joyce, Ate, Mamoon, Moth, and Alberto and Stacy are scheduled, then each one of them has agreed for their schedule to have that in their schedule. Period.
exactly.
Right?
That's what we agreed.
It can't possibly be scheduled though. When did Ate agree to schedule? Like, do you understand what scheduling means?
No, I mean Ate is, of course, we still need Ate
Ate is not scheduled.
agreement. No, Ate is in maternity leave for the moment. Yeah, she's not scheduled.
Okay, so stop saying that everybody's scheduled because that's incorrect. Okay, so the bottom line is that scheduling means that there is agreement from the individual that they scheduled. We would like everybody invited to come to Andromeda Hour 2 to do the work, but that has nothing to do with it being helpful. If someone's not helpful during the session, then they're not scheduled. Like, we're not allowing them to come and just make problems. That we don't want them to be there if they're not actually focusing on work.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the schedule that we approved is that everybody that that agreed on the schedule is automatically expected. Then, of course, they can schedule other sessions. But for these sessions here, everybody that agreed that okay, I corrected the Andromeda. You're right, Ate. It's not the whole core team, right? So Ate we still need to get agreement from her. But all these workers are expected to show up for the session. But everybody is expected to check in before, so that the focus is clear, that they're going to be working on, and how many body teams we're going to have, and needs to happen. So that's what is expected to happen. But everybody is expected to show up. Correct. These are the scheduled sessions for work that we want to make happen. Right.
But I feel like you're skipping ahead. The general idea is that everybody who works within Andromeda would be scheduling for Andromeda during the Andromeda sessions, right? People who don't work in Andromeda aren't coming. It's everyone within Andromeda, right? It's not everybody and their, brother and sister too. It's just like the trajectory model is not everybody comes to every session. That's not how it works. It's about who is scheduled for coming to Andromeda and who is part of the Andromeda octant. Like, that's what it was always about. It was about the Andromeda octant. And the people who are scheduled are individuals. Individuals are empowered based on all of our values and our model, and each individual controls their own schedule and they agree to their schedule. I mean, this is nothing changed with that. Right? We didn't suddenly take over people's schedule power. Right? That never happened. Like, it's just like each individual is required to schedule, and when they schedule to do work, and they're required to have work to do. Just like nothing changes with that. What we're saying is we have a regularly scheduled session for Friday, Saturday during the prime trajectory for Andromeda Hour 2. That's a regularly scheduled session. So everybody who schedules for that session can schedule regularly each week, Friday, Saturday at Andromeda Hour 2. right? And so the question is, who is scheduled for Friday, Saturday, Andromeda Hour 2? Because it's not everybody. That is not the correct term, right? The question is, who is scheduled, not let's try to get everyone scheduled. We don't care about getting everyone scheduled. We just want to get work done. If all we're doing is focusing on trying to get everybody, it's like herding cats. It's like, no, we don't need everybody. You need to know who is actually going to come. That's what we need to know.
Yeah. All right. So from the agreement, the people the workers that are scheduled for Andromeda on Friday, Saturday are Jay, Alberto, Joyce, Moth, and Mamu.
Okay. So then the question here is that we have 4 of us. We have Jay, Alberto, Joyce, and Moth. So the question is, what's going on with Mamun?
Exactly. Right? So
was Mamun there during Hydra?
He did some communication on Discord, but no, he wasn't there. So that's my question. What happens when you are scheduled, like for example Mamun? He was scheduled for Hydra and he was scheduled for Andromeda. He does not show up. He does not check in. He does not agree on any focus for the session that he's scheduled for, right? Because from what I understood, with this new model, which is more flexible, okay, we know that we have this schedule where we need to work on work related to either the prime trajectory or the other work or main session. But what is required is that the workers that are scheduled for these sessions, they need to check in before and make sure that can be even like yesterday, like we did yesterday. Right? Yesterday we said, all right, tomorrow during the wrap up, okay, we're going to work on that. So the focus needs to be clear to do the session, right? To join the session. But what happens when, for example, a worker doesn't show up and he's scheduled, right? For example, in Hydra, right? Mamun was expected to show up. He didn't, right? So in the end, the work happened only between Alberto, Moth, and Joyce. We had the taxis session, right? But if Mamun was to show up, we could have done more work because we could have done two BT sessions, one BT on taxis and the other one on something else. So what happens if a worker doesn't care about the schedule that he agreed on, right? Like Mamun is already doing this first day?
So obviously it's policy tracking. I mean, the model we had before was that you get a strike, right? You're required to check in, or for your scheduled session. This is professional work. You don't come, you're getting a strike, which now would be policy tracking. So you're looking at like 15 minutes or something like that. I don't know, for just ignoring the schedule and not communicating and not showing up. Right. So the only way to avoid getting strike for your schedule is to take leave, right? And you would also be getting policy tracking, and you wouldn't be allowed to work if you have commitment and you're not scheduling for your commitment. So again, the only way to get out of not having to schedule professionally is to take leave. And the only way to get out of not having strikes is to take leave if you can't come to your scheduled works sessions. Otherwise, you're getting policy tracking and or getting put on probation or something like that. Right? I mean, those are
exactly. Exactly. Okay, so policy tracking, and then if you keep not meeting your expected schedule commitment, then it goes into the work criteria.
Yeah, and it becomes an issue. Exactly. Correct.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
That should happen basically immediately. So for Mamun, the question for me is like, clarifying the schedule, getting that cleared. If he is scheduled, then that would be policy tracking.
Yeah, 2 policy tracking for Mamun at least.
Exactly. So that would be at least a half an hour, right? So, and that will add up pretty quickly. So for me, the main question is like, I want to see in writing that he is scheduled, right? So For me, the schedule is just simply not enough. Like it has to be per day, per session. If someone wants to schedule for every single session, every single day, that's perfectly fine. But I want to see that.
But we have it. But we have it in writing because we have his vote on the schedule. If you go into the decision here that it's linked.
Voting on the schedule is differently than scheduling individually for a session, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the new model is that you're scheduled. What changes is that the focus is decided. You need to check in before, which can also be 1 week before, right? We can also during a session now we can get together and say, all right, so we're going to decide already what we're going to work from here to the next weeks. But the point is that those sessions are already scheduled, and if you're scheduled for those session, you're expected to show up. And if you don't already had agreed before on the focus on the work that is going to happen, you need at least to check in, I don't know, 15 minutes before, and make sure that you have a clear agreement on what you're going to be working on. But those sessions are scheduled.
But that doesn't go against the idea of having a schedule. I just totally confused on this idea that suddenly we're getting rid of all of our scheduling policies. Like it doesn't make any sense that we would get rid of any scheduling policy. We never voted to get rid of any scheduling policy. All of our scheduling policies are the same. They all focus on the individual, right? Having empowerment, but you need a minimum of 2 people to schedule, and both of those 2 people need to have agreement together to be scheduled, right? It's impossible to have a schedule without agreement from a minimum of 2 individuals, right? So the management team can't just magically schedule everybody. That's not how our policy works. A vote in a management team does not automatically schedule everybody.
No, but it wasn't the management team. I mean, it was a decision that we took to have this regularly scheduled, weekly schedule.
There's a huge
But of course, we still have the policy that it needs to be clear who are gonna be the workers on what by team, what are they gonna work for. That's absolutely still absolutely. I mean, this needs to happen still, right? The only difference is that.
Can we just take a step back? Because I want to go into the old scheduling model so that we can look at that, because I think it's going to be very helpful. But just to finish up with this, what was voted on during the session? Again, I was not there, right? So somehow I was magically scheduled without even being present under your model, right? And the point is that it's like, when you vote on a proposal to create the schedule is that the prime trajectory work is Mondays, Cobalt, right? Hydra, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, it's Andromeda, and Friday, Saturday, it's Andromeda. That's the prime trajectory buddy team work. That's what we voted on. We didn't vote on each individual person's schedule during that time to show up during those buddy teams. Like that was not voted on. It was voting on the overall schedule to set it up with the Vortex model. So basically you're saying there was like 10 proposals all wrapped into one for every single person, and even people who weren't even present. Like your rational context doesn't make any sense. You're pretending like we didn't vote on an overall schedule, and instead we voted on specific individual schedules for each individual, and there's like 10 people. And you're saying that we voted on all of that. And I just disagree with that. And you're saying that I agreed to my schedule during that session, just like everyone else. And I disagree with that. I did not agree to anything because I wasn't even present. And so the idea that everyone else agreed to something that I also agreed to, it's just your rationale doesn't make any sense to me.
All right, so let's go a step back, Jay. Yeah, because I mean this was a very important proposal, and it's good that we just reviewed. So I'm gonna copy and paste the proposal here.
But this is the problem that I have with what you're proposing, is that you're saying that scheduling doesn't need to happen, that the work doesn't need to happen. The work of scheduling always needs to happen. We always need to get our schedule better and better and better. It never ends. right? That's what I'm trying to say, is that the scheduling doesn't stop. And you're saying, oh, we're done scheduling. The scheduling already happened. It's done. That's a huge difference. And basically you're saying we don't need to do any work because we already did it. And I'm saying, no, we didn't do the work yet. The work is not done for the schedule. Anyways,
I'm not exactly saying that. I'm saying that we have a pre-agreed weekly schedule where we know who is expected to do work. But of course, if you are not focused about the work and there's no agreement who is going to be joining the various BT session, that still applies. What I have, what I intend, what changed is that we have a very clear, because our problem was the scheduling. People were not scheduling, right? So we said, right, under this new model, we're going to create a minimum of these 8 sessions, right? Each octane being kind of independent. So each octane we have 50%.
Interdependent, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So now we have a schedule that it's people are expected to show up. I mean, they need to agree, right, on which octane they're going to be showing up, but this is already clear. Then, of course, people still need to get agreement which body teams are going to be, who's going to be on what body teams, and what's going to be the focus. Otherwise, you cannot start the session. That's absolutely, I'm not saying that doesn't need to happen. What is implemented is that we are trying to have a constant weekly schedule, so that everybody who already scheduled himself for that octant or for that specific session on that day is expected from the management to show up and check in before and let everybody know what they're going to be working on and everything. So that we make sure that people show up and work moves forward. But the difference is that it's more flexible, because you don't need to make a schedule for that session that is already scheduled with this new model. What you still are required to do is to make sure that before starting the session you have agreement on who's gonna participate and what's gonna be the focus of the work. Otherwise, you cannot start the session.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that we just need to take a step back in terms of, like, first you need to get your overall schedule set up, then you get clarity on individuals within the schedule, then you get clarity on the buddy teams and sort of the framework of each session, then you're getting clarity in relationship to, actual work that needs to be getting done. So all of those things need to happen in the management to make sure that the schedule is done as clearly and organized as possible.
Yeah.
Right? So there is just no reason not to make sure that everything is as organized as possible, right? Because again,
exactly.
like, you're hearing that the way that you're presenting is as this, oh, it's just all going to get dealt with later. It's just all going to happen, which doesn't make any sense.
No, I'm dealing it now. That's why I'm as soon as possible. I wanted to discuss this with you. Absolutely. So, like, for example, the proposal that we passed, just to review it, right? The proposal that we made is to approve the new weekly schedule as linked in the details, based on the evolved Vortex model, with 8 sessions during the new world octans scheduled every week, 2 in Hydra, 4 in Andromeda, and 2 in Cobalt. To be working within every octane 50% of the time on the prime trajectory work and 50% of the time on anything else, including the weekly main session. Then details can always schedule more sessions whenever this is just the approved weekly schedule, repeating itself over and over until there is agreement on a new schedule. And then this maybe is where it's against policy. The whole team is expected and agreed to check in for work at the Andromeda for sessions, all hands on deck. So for the moment, but obviously you didn't agree, although I thought this is what you wanted. And Ate, obviously she's in maternal leave, so this is definitely wrong. But for the moment, for Hydra, we didn't actually do a proposal for the workers nor Cobalt that are expected to check in and to do work. But we actually said that during Andromeda, we want that all hands are on deck, right? We want everybody shows up at least Andromeda for these 4 sessions per week. Right. So,
but again, I only want people to show up who are scheduled. Right. So this idea that everybody showing up from Andromeda is coming from you, that is not coming from me at all. Like for me, the only people who show up for Andromeda is everybody involved in Andromeda. And nothing more than that. If you're not involved in Andromeda, you're not scheduled for Andromeda, you're not awake during Andromeda, we don't want you involved during Andromeda. Like, it's not everybody regardless of anything. That's not ever what I said or what. It's per octant. It's the people who are awake and available during that octant. And even then, it should still be people who are, tasked with responsibilities and actually want to step up and do work. Like, we don't want people coming to sessions who don't have any work to do and don't want to do work, right? Like, that's not what we want. We don't want everybody. Like this idea of having everybody from the entire organization, the entire network, I think that's a stretch from what I was talking about.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if you agree to the, okay, so I say, okay, I'm gonna show up on all the Andromeda scheduled sessions. So I'm scheduled for these 4 Andromeda sessions. Then, of course,
no, there's no one is automatically scheduled, period, ever. That is where I definitely am not in agreement. People are scheduled because they say they're scheduled. It's the same thing as like when people want to step up and do work and do work for example, taking on the recruitment, right? They want to work on the recruitment. They're not automatically assigned recruitment. It's not automatic. It is someone stepping up and intentionally taking on work, right? It's the same thing. Someone intentionally schedules themselves for that work, and they're going to show up because they scheduled the work. And so they're going to show up for that. There's no automatic anything in terms of taking intention to show up for work. Right? It's not automatic. The only thing that we set up is a regularly scheduled buddy team. So what that means is for those regularly scheduled buddy teams, we would need to prevent. All right, here, let's go back to the notes. I'm going to go to line 50. Right? So policy to prevent team policy tracking, we must have a minimum of 1 buddy team work going on during each session, right? That's the policy right there. All we agreed to as a team is that if we agreed to have those buddy team sessions, that in order to meet policy, there needs to be 1 buddy team that happens during that session. If it doesn't happen, we all get policy tracking, right? So if no happens during our agreed work buddy team sessions, then the entire team gets policy tracking, right? So as a team, we are all required to meet our schedule, which says that we are required to do these sessions, which means that there needs to be a minimum of 1 buddy team, which is 2 people, right? Required 2 people to schedule for each session. Right, and that's 4 days a week.
Right, Jay. Now it's clear. Yeah, I got it.
That's how our policy works in terms of scheduling.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's what we want to focus on, right? The first thing,
Perfect. Mhm.
make sure there's at least one buddy team scheduled. Then we can get to 2 buddy teams. Then we can get to 3 buddy teams. But this idea that somehow magically we have this automated system which is going to have like 10 buddy teams that are all working simultaneously without anyone scheduling, it doesn't make any sense. It's like skipping the first 9 buddy teams. Like you make one buddy team at a time, then you work your way up to having 10.
Right, Jay. Thank you. Perfect. Now it's clear. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So now what we did, we set up regularly sessions where there at least one body team session is expected to happen.
Exactly.
If it doesn't happen, the whole team
Gets
policy track.
Exactly.
Okay, now I get it. Perfect. Yeah.
Right. So then now that we have the schedule set up, we need to fill the schedule to make sure. And if we can't fill the schedule and actually do the buddy teams, remember when I said, okay, having 6 in a week might be too much. How are we going to handle that? If we can't do it, we're all against policy, right? So doing 4 for Andromeda, let's get that stable and set up first. And then once we know we can get that happening, and again, remember, it's not about any one person. Like if I have to cancel, we want other people to step up and make sure the work is moving forward and happening, right? Even if both of me and you can't make a buddy team session, the session should still happen because we have 7 people in the team. And if we all have to cancel, we all can't do it, then we all get policy. It's really as simple as that, right? That's the goal, is making sure the work moves forward during these.
Perfect. Got it, Jay. Got it.
And
Thanks
that's
so
where
much.
scheduling comes in, right? Because like the idea that just everyone's magically scheduled forever and then no work has to happen to get the schedule set up correctly is just a recipe for disaster. It's like every single session needs to be scheduled, coordinated, double, triple, quadruple checked on the schedule, on the buddy teams, and then from there, who's doing what work, what are the primary goals and outcomes, and the responsibilities that are going to be worked on, right? And so that's constant, and it's a lot of work to make sure that our schedule is always up to date with the correct details, right? So every single individual session is like a whole process. Okay, so that's what I want to go over with you now. So do we understand that the policy help on this? Having clarity on the policy. So, and this is the same policy we had before. Whenever we scheduled a session, it's saying, okay, even with the check-ins, like for the regularly scheduled check-ins, remember we used to have the policy where it's like somebody is required to check in at this time, and so we schedule somebody to do that within the team. And if nobody schedules, no one actually checks in during that time, then it doesn't work. So everybody gets policy tracking, right? That's the model that we have. So it's exactly the same policy, exactly the same system, and in that way, we can start scheduling backups, and we can start scheduling people who are on call and all that. That's like the whole idea. Like you don't have to schedule to be present. You can schedule to be a backup. You can schedule to be on call if the buddy team work doesn't happen, right? Or you can schedule to actually be present.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Another thing that's good to note here is that Moth and Joyce can have their main buddy team session any freaking time they want to. Not to mention they are in old world, so they could do it during the day and not be getting overtime for it, right? So it's like if we weren't working on setting up the prime trajectory, we would all be getting policy tracking because they're not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I mentioned it.
What did you mention?
I mentioned that they should be working on the prime trajectory during Andromeda, because when we finished this session, it was already Andromeda. And say, look, but by the new schedule, we should be working on the prime trajectory. But I wasn't sure. Right, I wasn't sure if MBT setup was part or not of the prime trajectory.
Yeah, Joyce says that she's under the weather. She has a high fever, cough, and shivering. I don't know why she would be working.
All right, Jay, very clear to me.
Well, I still want to go through the details because I think there's details that are missing here.
Okay. So do we want to miss the break? I mean, we already missed it by 15 minutes. So maybe we do a stretch and then we do break, top of the hour.
I'm fine just taking a 5-minute break now, and then we can continue with this when we get back.
Okay. 5-minute break. Okay. Meet at 50.
Okay. And I'm also trying to deal with Joyce and Moth. I don't understand what's going on with them. I think I might just jump into their session to see if they're still meeting. I don't know. I don't really want to jump in their session, but she says that she's sick. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna jump in.
Okay.
And see what's going on.
Okay.